What's up you guys, GINORMOUS here. So I've been playing with an LMG Gunner build quite a bit on the PTS, and I've come to a pretty solid conclusion, which kind of collaborates with what I already suspected when I was doing some theory crafting for the Gunner. It's the best solo build. Best is of course subjective, and this is just my own opinion, but honestly, it was an absolute breeze and delight playing a Gunner with an LMG. And just to be clear, this video isn't about their specialist weapon, the minigun, which I still think needs a lot of work in order to even be close to viable. I did an entire analysis video on it, so be sure to check it out when you get the chance. But back to the LMG Gunner build. With it, I was able to solo level 4 control points with ease, at times even easier than my sharpshooter sniper build, which to me was already one of the best ones for doing control points. And mind you, I was doing all of this with an unoptimized build, my sharpshooter build, comprising of marksman rifle damage and rifle damage. I have a good bit of weapon damage on my gear, but as you can see, I was completely lacking any specific LMG damage. I didn't have the Petrov set bonus, I didn't have the LMG damage on the gloves, so I'm flat out lacking an extra 20% LMG damage, and I also didn't have unstoppable force, patience on the ropes, and so on, which just proves how insanely strong the Gunner build was without even having a LMG loadout. There are several things that I touched on superficially in the previous video, but now that I've tested them out, it almost completely corroborates with them. Gunners are definitely strong as hell with an LMG, and I feel like that's a really good thing. You actually feel strong while playing an LMG Gunner. It feels good. It feels very satisfying. There are some drawbacks to this loadout, as there are with any build, but I'll elaborate on them later. Let's go over its strengths first. You never run out of ammo. Like, almost never. While I was doing the control points, I basically never ran out of ammo, while picking up very little from the ground. And that's due to the new supply line talent. Every minute, you generate 10% of your ammo. When I first saw this talent, I was thinking, that's not much, kind of a meh talent. But in fact, if you do the math, it's 10% of your total ammo every 60 seconds. So over a 10-minute duration, you generate all of your ammo back. All of it. And passively at that. You don't need to do anything to activate it. It just happens. Here you go, 90 LMG ammo dumped into your bags. So over a 5-minute duration, which is about the time it takes to do a level 4 control point for me, that's half my ammo refilled. Half! I barely even used 3/4 of my magazine when conquering the control point, and I get back half, automatically. This talent just synergizes so well with the spray and suppress playstyle of the LMG. Previously, with the Demolitionist, there was a concern that your ammo would run out, as you only got back ammo when your armor dropped to 0, which is still a pretty baffling talent to me honestly. But now, on the Gunner, you almost never need to worry about running out of bullets. I also tried out a bit of an Invader Heroic mission, which I wasn't able to get through solo. I admit it, I'm not good enough to do so, and my build was probably crap for it. But as you can see, I did manage to get through the first part pretty successfully, fighting non-stop for 5 minutes or so, and I was nowhere near panic levels of low ammo. It was just, on an LMG playstyle, it was just beautiful. Additionally, for those of you that are raiding, I'm sure you can see how the concept of near unlimited ammo is going to be amazing for fights like Boomer, Lucy Buddy, and Razorback. Not to mention it also gives ammo to your teammates, but that's more of a group thing. But in line with never running out of ammo, you now also have a new magazine, the new large pouch. It's crazy. Crazy! Man, is it good. 50 extra rounds, an M60 with 150 rounds, 150. There was rarely any moment in which I was running out of bullets before managing to kill an enemy. You know this fear we all have, being unsure of whether you should reload when an enemy has just rushed past you and taken cover a few meters away, and now you have to do a quick calculation in your head within the next 1 second or so of whether you should reload or maybe not, because it kind of looks like you have enough bullets in your magazine to finish him off based on how much HP he has left. Yeah, that stress was like almost completely negated with the LMG Gunner build. I didn't need to be afraid of having to reload when I couldn't finish off an enemy before he dove behind cover, because there was almost always still a good deal of bullets left in the magazine. This is what it should feel like to wield a beastly LMG, and I'm glad that the devs are pushing the gun's playstyle in this direction. And added to that, the reload speed. Man, it's awesome. This new coupler talent, when it procs, it's like chick 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 and you're done. And it procs on every third reload, so it procs pretty damn often. It's definitely a little unpredictable in the sense that you don't always have it in those crunch moments when you really need it, so it does take some getting used to, but overall, it just allowed me to continue raining down an absolute bullet hell on my enemies oh so much more effectively. Kudos to the devs for including such a talent for an LMG spec. It enables some form of strategic thought, such as reloading your LMG, even if it might be short of 10 bullets in a safe area, so that when you advance up to a more dangerous area or situation, you'll have your third reload ready on hand. Also, generally an LMG is already somewhat easier to use than most other guns in this game, simply because you don't need to always aim for the head for it to dish out a respectable amount of damage. Unlike say the rifle or assault rifle for example, where if you don't hit the head consistently, your damage drops off drastically. Check out some time to kill TTK testing that I did on the range. Remember, I don't have unstoppable force, so there's nothing proccing on kill here, and I'm also lacking about 20% damage from gear for the LMG. I am also solely doing body shots here. They have finally changed the training range in Title Update 4 to no longer have headshots register when hitting the center of the dummies. Hallelujah to that, no idea whose idea it even was in the first place to put them there. Below 7 seconds on average, and pretty consistently at that too, sometimes even hitting below 6 seconds. That is incredibly powerful, considering how again, I'm not aiming for the head at all. Easy body shots below 7 seconds TTK on very hard. And this just got even easier with the new gunner talent and placement. Within just 1 second of holding your position, 1 second, even I was shocked when I saw that only 1 second was required, looked like a typo or something, you gain 20% weapon handling. At least for me while I was testing it, it felt very comparable to the sharpshooter stability bonus. It essentially makes LMG so much easier to use, without needing to trade off any damage whatsoever. Think about it, Unhinged now no longer has any negative drawbacks due to this talent, which is insane. One word, relaxed. I was relaxed, very relaxed in fact, while clearing level 4 control points. I see enemy, I take out my gun, and I spray. Dead enemy. I gain back 10% armor because of the incessant talent, and an additional 5% rate of fire. Rinse and repeat. If my armor drops down low, use an armor kit. Holy bejesus, so much additional armor, plus 50% more of it for 10 seconds. I also never needed to move much from my position, benefiting almost all the time from emplacement, which is essentially a free 20% additional weapon handling. If you stack patience with this build, which I don't have, man, you're essentially a formidable turret that can move around at will. That's just plain awesome, and is what an LMG is supposed to feel like. And let's not forget about the new Banshee Scream Pulse thingy. It isn't the main focus of the build, and is still kind of in a crappy position because you have to give up the Revive Hive or Healing Cam Launcher for it. But that's more due to the stupidly clunky and broken skill system in the game as a whole, rather than the skill itself. On its own though, I gotta say, it does synergize very well with the LMG playstyle. Simply put, it knocks enemies out of cover, confusing them for 5 seconds flat. That's a pretty sizable amount of time to take advantage of, especially since the LMG does 15% more damage to enemies while they're out of cover. You can also buff it up till about 7.5 seconds of confused time with a 2.9k skill mod. And with a buffed up cooldown of 10 seconds, it might be something pretty interesting for a support skill build to use in say, a heroic mission or stronghold. Coupled with this are of course the really new cool glue grenades. Except the grenades in this game as a whole are just terrible, because higher level enemies just dodge roll out of them. So again, an ability that synergizes very well with the playstyle, but falls short because of the overall design of the game. Might be cool though for PvP. Getting caught in these would probably be a death sentence, unless you're behind high cover. But despite all of the LMG Gunner's strengths, I honestly didn't feel like the spec was overpowered. It was powerful, it felt great, and it was very satisfying to play. The talents synergized with one another. The playstyle didn't feel clunky or forced. You were basically rewarded for playing the LMG how it was meant to be played. Increased rate of fire on an LMG? Good. Increased reload speed on an LMG? Good. Infinite ammo on an LMG? Very good. It was powerful, but it wasn't overpowered, because like any build, it has some key drawbacks, which I think is important to share with you too. As awesome as Coupler is at increasing reload speed, the LMG is still a gun with a very long reload time. The increased magazine size does take much of the stress of reloading away, but it won't negate it completely. You will still need to utilize your own judgment to reload effectively and efficiently based on whatever encounter you are facing at that exact moment. Reloading at the wrong time will kill you, especially on higher difficulties. Secondly, as is inherent with LMGs, at best you'll be pretty weak at longer ranges, and at worst, completely useless. This playstyle necessitates you to run up pretty close to the enemy, plop yourself down in a good position, and hold out as long as you can. The talent patience on your knee pads obviously helps a ton with this, to the extent where it's probably going to be the most optimal talent for the build, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, being an effective frontliner for your team. And your lack of long range damage can be negated slightly if you wield a nemesis in your other weapon slot. But it is something that you have to be aware of, that you'll be under a lot more heavy fire and open to many more flanks than your teammates in the backline. So there are clear drawbacks to the build, of which I suspect will become pretty enhanced in group play, when the mobs gain too much HP and damage to effectively frontline without placing yourself in an exceeding amount of danger. Regardless, I have a sneaking suspicion that when TU4 hits, an 8-man LMG Gunner team will become the meta for certain bosses, Boomer and Lucy and Buddy in particular. It's just able to put out such a gross amount of sustained damage over time. And sadly, the specialist weapon, the minigun, is just going to be a holstered weapon 99% of the time. I highly encourage you guys to hop onto the PTS to check it out if you haven't. If not, again, feel free to check out my analysis of the minigun. I really hope that Massive does something to buff it up so that it's actually integral to the gameplay of the spec.